What defines Joey Wheeler? His Brooklyn accent? This weird face? His growth as a duelist? Or maybe his willpower? Well, in my eyes, these are all factors that contribute to his character, but willpower is probably my favorite quality about Joey, allowing him to become the man who defied a god. Something I'd like to establish early on is that Joey really cares for his friends. I know it sounds obvious and cliche, but it's one of the driving forces of his character. When he's in a desperate situation, he thinks about why he's dueling and what he's dueling for. And in most cases, it's his friends or his sister Serenity. On the way to Duelist Kingdom, as Weevil throws Yugi's Exodia cards overboard, Joey just jumps into the water to rescue them without a care in the world for his own safety, not worrying about how he's gonna get back on the boat, which is actually never really explained. How does he get back on board? Well, however he manages to get back, it's his intentions that I'm focused on. He disregards himself in these moments and puts his friends as the priority. And this establishes a core character trait of his, which is loyalty. I'd also like to raise a small theory of mine, which is that Joey is a placeholder for the viewer. We see him at the very start learning how to duel, and eventually becoming one of the best duelists in the world. But how do we get there? Joey starts the series as a complete novice, so needless to say, early on in the series, he is a terrible duelist. He makes simple errors that other duelists laugh at him for, and clearly has very little understanding of the game at all. However, with help from Yugi, he actually develops some strategies and combinations of cards that he tends to use. Although this does bring into question some of the criticisms of Joey, that he relies on luck. A lot of this comes from the card Time Wizard, which is a card that Yugi actually gave to him. And this card's effect has a positive and negative outcome, based on time roulette. However, this effect doesn't work every time, and I don't think his luck is quite as good as people make it out to be, but it's notable that early on in the series he does rely on these cards based on chance. I think an interesting duel to analyze would be Joey versus Esperoba. If you're unfamiliar with this duel, Joey's opponent is cheating. He has people with binoculars looking at Joey's hand so that he knows exactly what Joey's gonna do, and has built up a reputation doing this as someone who has ESP, making any challengers believe they're up against a mind reader. So how can you be unpredictable against an opponent that can predict everything you're about to do? Well, the answer is luck-based cards, because although he can predict the cards that Joey's about to use, he can't predict the outcome of those effects. And throughout this duel, Joey uses Time Wizard, Graceful Dice, Skull Dice, and Roulette Spider, which is actually the card that wins him the duel. However, the reason I bring up this duel specifically is because Joey has actually dueled someone like this before, all the way back in Duelist Kingdom, and that was none other than My Valentine, someone who sprayed different perfumes on her cards, so she knew what she was going to draw next. But Joey beat both of these duelists, both of which had an unfair advantage. I think this displays Joey's determination, and maybe his luck-based cards actually reflect this element of his character, because he's willing to go all out and risk everything to win. And quite often, when he's backed into a corner, he's willing to take that risk. And this does catch other duelists out. Because of Joey's fearlessness, he surprises a lot of his opponents because they're not expecting him to play so carelessly. And the duelist that plays most similarly to this style is probably Seto Kaiba, as he's another duelist that plays fearlessly, as his playstyle focuses on bringing out his strongest monsters and overpowering the opponent. However, Joey does slightly change his style and learns to play more cautiously, shifting his dueling style so that it's more similar to the Pharaoh. However, there comes a time where he plays with too much caution, and had he played with some more fearlessness, he would have been a lot better off. But now we come to a duel which is the pinnacle of Joey's growth throughout this series. A duel which perfectly displays Joey's character and why he's one of the best in the series. The Battle City semi-finals. Joey versus Marek. Joey plays with caution. He's just witnessed firsthand exactly what Marek is capable of against My Valentine. For one of the first times in his dueling career, Joey feels fear. In a perfect contrast, Joey is overestimating his opponent, and his opponent is underestimating him. Marek is toying with Joey. They're in a shadow game. Every point of damage to their life points feels like real pain inflicted on them. This just adds to Joey's fears, and he doesn't want to bring out a powerful monster because he's scared that Marek's face downs will destroy them. However, Marek doesn't actually want to destroy Joey's monsters. He wants to inflict pain upon him and make him suffer as much as possible. So even when presented with the opportunity to destroy Joey's monsters, Marek prefers those slow burning cards like Plasma Eel and Nightmare Wheel because he knows that these will torment Joey. Joey knows he can't win without going on the offensive, so he does start attacking. He even gets to a point where he's attacking for game, but Marek isn't gonna lose that easily. And not too long after, when Joey summons Guilford the Lightning, he has another opportunity to swing for game. But once again, Marek has a trick up his sleeve, which inflicts 1000 damage to Joey on top of stopping his attack, and allows Marek to discard his Winged Dragon of Ra, which unfortunately brings it to Marek's turn, where he activates Monster Reborn to bring back the Winged Dragon of Ra from the graveyard. Marek activates Ra's ability, which allows it to be completely invincible and destroy all of Joey's cards. Marek knows he's not going to reduce Joey's life points to 0, but the sheer power of a god card will leave him unable to continue. This is one of my favourite pieces of animation in the original Duel Monsters series. It captures Joey's pain so well, showing that he's not only struggling physically, but mentally. It seems there's nothing left but smoke remaining from the incineration, but then Joey emerges from the smoke. Ironically, the term I'd use is like a phoenix from the ashes, after Marek had invoked the phoenix variant of the Winged Dragon of Ra, and as his god card is returned to the graveyard, the tables have turned. Marek is now the one that feels fear. Joey draws Gearfried the Iron Knight. All he has to do is declare an attack and he'll win the duel, but unfortunately, in the face of sheer exhaustion, Joey collapses and is disqualified for being unable to continue, giving Marek his victory. So it might seem that Joey's willpower wasn't enough to win him the duel, which is correct. However, given what happens after this duel, there is still more to be said about Joey's willpower. Just to make this clear, Joey lost a shadow game, so he should be sent to the Shadow Realm, and he is. And he's in a comatose state after this duel. The surprising fact is that he manages to wake up, the doctor even saying that it should be impossible for him to recover so quickly. However, there's also some interesting visions that Joey has while he's in a coma, and this actually gives some insight into Joey's mentality. Joey has a vision where he's dueling in the final of a tournament, and unfortunately he ends up losing the duel. But what he says to himself afterwards is where we gain some understanding of his perspective on dueling. He beat me, but you know what? I dueled my hardest today, and that's all that matters. While Joey can seem overconfident or even arrogant at times when he just steams into duels, it's because he's truly willing to take on anyone, and any challenge that he faces is only going to make him improve. And when he does lose, he can express frustration or disappointment, but often shows respect to the duelists that beat him and congratulates them on their skill. And while there is criticism around Joey's luck, it's important to remember that Joey started out as a complete beginner. He had a weak deck, he has no Millennium items, no spirit from 3000 years ago to help him out, no supernatural elements to help him win, and no attacking the moon, just the willingness to improve and the determination to continue through defeat. The beauty of Joey's character is that he's the most relatable. Either you were in the same position he was at the start of the show, or you remember what it was like to learn the game. The most human character in the series, with no powers whatsoever, was somehow able to temporarily withstand the power of a god. The most underestimated duelist, forcing his way through tough opponents and gaining recognition from some of the top duelists in the world, even including Seto Kaiba himself, beating opponents that no one ever thought was possible from someone like him. Duelists like Rex and Weevil, who were champions at the start of the series, who were both defeated by Joey Wheeler. Joey is the underdog that built a legacy for himself, even being listed in the top 5 duelists in the world years after Duel Monsters takes place, by none other than Maximilian Pegasus himself. This guy is one of my favourite characters. He was the underdog who overachieved, and is easily one of the best written characters in the history of this series.